Hey everybody, Kennedy Hawk here from the MCM and Con of Heroes planning team, and this is going to act as our spoiler article leading into Con of Heroes. So these are not official FFG spoilers, these are spoilers for the custom content cards that we have designed for Con of Heroes 2025. So this is the first part of 3 videos you'll be able to watch on spoilers for the con. We've already spoiled some of the shield stuff that we have planned, the shield jetpack you'll be able to get access to, but there's 3 videos coming out in the next couple weeks, one here, one on the Amazing Winning Hand podcast, and then wrapping things up on the Critical Encounters podcast. So today, we're going to go over just the event schedule, some of the events you can play in, and then an introduction to the Carnage scenario, and then you'll learn more about that Carnage scenario and some of the custom content in those other videos. We'll wrap up with a packing list so you know exactly what modular sets, hero decks, and things like that to bring to the con to have the best experience. So, let's get underway. Again, if you don't want to see spoilers before the con, please turn the video off now, come back later, and laugh at my insight. All right. So first, this is our hype episode. We always drop one of these the first week of April, and this year is no different. So the con is jammed packed full of events, and the con schedule for events is now available on the Con of Heroes website, which is conofheroes.com. So Thursday nights, there'll be a meetup at the hotel. People will be able to hang out and play games. Some people are going to go to a brewery. Some people are going to go to the movies. So just hang out and meet some other Marvel Champions fans. Starting on Friday, the con will kick off in full. So Game Center, the place where we're hosting the con, will open at noon. The con will kick off right away, and we'll have our first event at 2 p.m. It is called Shadowy Justice, like lightning. It is a Thunderbolts playthrough. So the entire con, we kind of have this warm-up event. We'll play through the Thunderbolts scenario from the new Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. box. You'll divide into teams of 3 to 4 to play with other people. And the twist here is you're only going to pick one Thunderbolts mod to mix in, and instead you're going to mix in all of your Nemesis sets. So everyone's Nemesis minion will become an elite Thunderbolt just for this special playthrough of the Thunderbolt scenario, and they'll all gain 10 hit points, so they're in the same hit point range as the normal Thunderbolts villain. And we'll see if you can take down this new team of assembled Thunderbolts out of all your worst Nemesis. Should be super fun. And that's our warm-up event, so people get used to playing with each other and meeting new people. At 4:30, we'll kick off what's going to be probably my favorite event, which is going to be our epic multiverse event, and it is Carnage in the Spider-Verse. So this year, we've actually designed an entire custom scenario instead of just a modular set to mix into other scenarios. So you'll be fighting Carnage through a multi-phase scenario, which is what the rest of this video is going to go over. So I don't want to talk about it too much, but as an epic multiplayer scenario, you're going to be able to interact with other tables and sort of have a unique hook or gimmick for doing that within this scenario. Game Center closes at 10 p.m., but there's a room available at the hotel until 1 a.m. for people to hang out, play more champions or other games as the night goes on. Saturday, on May 3rd, Game Center opens at 10 a.m., and again, the con opens immediately. At 10:30, you're going to have the option to team up to play an up to 4 scenario campaign, which again, we'll talk about a little bit later in this video. In that campaign, each villain is going to be given a symbiote suit, and if you defeat that villain, you'll gain access to that suit for the rest of the campaign amongst your heroes. So can they help us out, or is it going to be a problem? We'll find out. At 5 p.m., there'll be a group photo, and then Game Center closes at 9, and again, we have the hotel room until 1 a.m. at the hotel. Finally, the con wraps up on Sunday, kind of the slow down day. From 10 a.m. to close, the con will be open, and it's just a community engagement day. So no structured events, just play your favorite scenarios with your favorite people, bring other games that you want to share with your internet friends, and just have a blast. Game Center does close a little bit early on Sunday, and that's usually okay because people start trickling out throughout the day as everyone has to return, sadly, to reality for yet another year. So let's get into the events that we have designed for this year. So we've been testing this one since the S.H.I.E.L.D. box came out, and basically it's a Thunderbolts warm-up event. So we want you to make the ultimate team of Thunderbolts. So normally with apprehending rogue agents, you would choose one modular set plus one per player additional modular sets, where each set has to have a minion with the elite and Thunderbolt trait. Instead, you're only going to pick one of those, and then the one per player is going to be absorbed by your Nemesis sets. And because Nemesis minions usually have less health than these Elite Thunderbolt minions, we're going to increase their health and give them that Elite and Thunderbolt trait. So if you're playing with me, you're probably going to see a lot of Crossfire. And if you're playing with someone who's playing Hulk, you're going to see a lot of Abomination, and hopefully it's a blast. That does mean if you're playing as Venom, you're going to mix in multiple extra Elite Thunderbolts, or if you're playing with Dark Phoenix or Phoenix, it could be a rough day. So maybe think about what hero you want to bring for the Thunderbolts warm-up event. Next, we're going to go in and look at the Carnage event. We're going to have a whole detailed MCM episode about how we designed an epic multiplayer scenario, along with some guests. So we'll figure out when that's going to be, hopefully coming up here soon. But I want to introduce everybody to the scenario so you can get a little bit more information about how it's going to be played, because this is more than just a modular set. It's a whole thing, right? So we're going to be fighting against Carnage. And here Carnage is card 1A of 26 in this scenario. He has two abilities, so he has a forced response after he attacks and defeats an ally. We're going to play a cultist counter on Here to Slay, which is an environment that starts in play. And when defeated, you're going to remove 3 threat per player from Along Came a Spider, basically defeating it, and heal Carnage to full health. So you have this repeatable villain you're going to be going through in the first phase. Let's read the setup of main scheme 1A. So our contents are going to be Carnage 1 and 2 for standard, or 3 and 4 for expert mode, so a slightly different version of Carnage for expert players. You're going to include the Carnage, Symbiote Standard, Cultist of Carnage, and then 2 more modular sets. We recommend Children of Carnage, which is another custom mod you'll get at the con, and Symbiotic Strength. So if you want to learn more about Symbiotic Standard, we're going to talk all about that on the Winning Hand podcast coming up very soon in the next week or two. So be sure to check them out and learn all about that modular set. But for today, I want to talk about the Phase 1 and Phase 2 and looping approach that we've designed within Carnage. So as a setup ability, you're going to remove the Carnage Symbiote suit, which will be explained in another podcast, the Critical Encounters podcast. We're kind of spreading out our spoilers over a couple of weeks. And that's just because that card gets used in a different way, not in this scenario, but it's in one of the sets that's included. And then you're going to do this new thing. If you're playing in single table mode, you're going to go through the deck and remove everything that has a B in it. So you can see here I'm showing you Carnage 1A. I'm showing you Along Came a Spider 6A. If there's an A there, that means there's also a B version. It's not just the back of the card, because some of these are double-sided. So if you're playing in single player mode, you're going to remove all the Bs. Those are the epic multiverse versions. At the con, you'll include the Bs in this event, but then if you go play the scenario again later, you'll remove the Bs and just use the As. So basically telling you which versions to use so you have the right thresholds for all the different events and triggers that may happen. You'll put the scenario environment Here to Slay into play, and you'll find Along Came a Spider, the side scheme shown on the screen here, and reveal it. And then you're going to find 7 Web Warrior ally cards in the encounter deck and shuffle them aside into a separate Web Warrior deck. So that's a lot of setup for a lot of fun stuff. So let's go through the cards that start out in play. We're going to start with the main scheme Gathering the Spiders. It has 7 threat per player, and it is a repeatable main scheme. So forced interrupt when this scheme would be completed. Instead, do each of the following. Remove all the threat, and place 1 per player cultist counters on Here to Slay. So Carnage can place these cultist counters by completing his scheme. He can also do it by attacking and defeating allies, because when you defend with an ally, it's going to be attacked. So the Here to Slay environment itself is shown here for single player mode. It's a little bit different from multiplayer mode, which we'll talk about here in a minute. So in single table mode, it has the forced response after a cultist counter is placed here. If there are 3 per player cultist counters here, progress to the main scheme. So in a 4-player game, you get 12 ally deaths. You get 4 main scheme pops before Carnage goes to this second phase that we'll talk about in a minute. At the same time, we have this side scheme, Along Came a Spider. It has a forced interrupt. It's a repeatable side scheme, so all of these things are going to stay in play for the entire phase 1. Forced interrupt when this side scheme would be defeated. Place a Web Warrior counter on this side scheme. Then place 3 per player threat on the side scheme instead of defeating it. So you're going to defeat this side scheme over and over again to gain a bunch of Web Warrior counters before Carnage becomes Here to Slay and ascends to his second form. So again, tune into the Winning Hand podcast to learn more about the Symbiotic Standard, because that's the standard set that's required for this scenario, just to make it a little bit more fun and symbiote-y. Alright, so once we've triggered Here to Slay, we're going to go to Phase 2 of this Carnage scenario. In the Epic Multiverse version, with the B version, everyone will go to Phase 2 at the same time. So there'll be something called the Great Web Table that's tracking everyone's Here to Slay tokens, and there's triggers telling you to go report those tokens to that table so that we can figure out when we reach our threshold. So Carnage in Stage 2 is a symbiote deity. He's ascended to godhood, like in a recent Spider-Man Carnage run in the comics. Carnage cannot take more than 6 per player damage per round at any given table, and Carnage will be defeated when he takes 20 per player in the whole multiverse. That's what we're calling that little 2-player symbol. So if there's a table of 3 and a table of 4, that means he needs to take 140 damage before he is defeated, and some of that can come from all the different tables. Forced response, after Carnage attacks and defeats an ally, we're going to put 2 threat in the main scheme. He's no longer putting counters on Here to Slay, he's throwing it at the main scheme. And forced response, after the villain phase begins, you're going to move all damage from Carnage to the Great Web Table. So the Great Web Table will have a dial, it'll be keeping track of Carnage's health. Most likely a spreadsheet, because there's going to be so many people. So what's happening with the main scheme when we go to phase 2? We're also going to go to 2A of the main scheme that triggers all this. It says, when revealed, flip the Here to Slay environment card, remove all threat from Along Came a Spider side scheme, and flip it to reveal the World Wide Web side scheme. Move all of the Web Warrior counters to the Great Web Table. So the Great Web Table will be tracking all of those Web Warrior counters. We'll deal each player an encounter card to start the phase, because why not? And then we'll remove all damage from Carnage 1 and reveal the other form. So we're going to flip him to his, ascended form. So the main scheme here, again, is repeatable, but not forever repeatable. So we have a forced interrupt when this scheme would be completed. Instead, do each of the following. Remove all threat from here. Carnage activates against every player in your table, so we can't just hide in alter ego form. He might trigger multiple times then. And then you're going to place 1 Carnage counter at the Great Web Table. If there are 3 or more Carnage counters per table there, the multiverse loses. So in that scenario, at a table of 4 and a table of 3, that means if Carnage's main scheme pops 6 times, the entire multiverse will lose. Hopefully that won't happen. So the other stuff it said to do was to flip this environment and the side scheme. So we're going to flip Here to Slay to this gaining momentum side. And I'm not going to tell you what happens in that, because that's a bad guy buff. And I don't care about bad guy things, but you know who does? The Critical Encounters podcast. So in 2 weeks, I believe it's going to be on April 15th, they'll reveal what's going to happen with this gaining momentum and how that gives Carnage some momentum and some oomph against our heroes. What I want to tell you about is how we get the good things. So Along Came a Spider is going to flip and become the World Wide Web. Here we have another repeatable side scheme that starts with 1 threat, just a measly basic activation should get rid of it. And it says forced interrupt. When this side scheme would be defeated, remove a Web Warrior counter from the Great Web Table. So you'll have to go to the table, tell them, take 1 counter away, or you can shout at me across the room. When we playtested this with 3 tables, we kind of just had a table in the middle that we kept track of things on. You're going to choose a player at your table. That player draws 2 counters from their Web Warrior deck, the Web Warrior deck for their scenario, and plays 1 of the cards for free. Then place 1 threat in this side scheme instead of defeating it. So you're just going to be able to summon allies by defeating this side scheme. And you could do it 7 times in a row, but then you would run out of cards in the Web Warrior deck, and you'd probably run out of resources. So how does this gameplay loop work, right? In phase 1, we have Along Came a Spider. We're going to spend a lot of threat and a lot of damage on Carnage, building up those Web Warrior counters. In single table mode, those are just Web Warrior counters that sit on your side scheme. But in the Epic Multiverse version, those are gathering at this Great Web Table where Hoenn and I will probably be sitting or proctoring the event. We're going to gather up all of these counters, which again will be a dial with how big the convention is going to be. And then in phase 2, you're going to be able to spend those counters. So you want to linger in phase 1 for as long as you can before phase 2 triggers, and all of a sudden now we have to say, okay, well, we only got 50 counters, so you guys get 50 allies to summon before you can't anymore. And what do these allies look like? I wanted to show you some spoilers of that. So here's an example. I drew 2 of the 7 random allies. I have Spider-Ham and Spider. So Spider-Ham is a 2-thwart, 2-attack ally with 6 health and the Web Warrior trait, and he has Hero Resource, deal 1 damage to Spider-Ham to generate a resource. So he basically has clarity of purpose built in. When defeated, you shuffle this card into the Web Warrior deck and give someone in the Spider-Verse a high five, even yourself. Then that player searches their deck for a resource and adds it to their hand. So this works in solo table or in Epic Multiverse mode, because you can high-five someone else at your table, or you can go to the table next door that might need more help than you. All of these allies are going to do something on when defeated, or in some way to affect your table and another table, or your table or another table. That way you get some choices and you can decide where is this most useful. So Spider, Penny Parker, it's Spider time. She also has the Web Warrior trait, 2 thwart, 2 attack, and only 2 health because she kind of wants to be defeated. So Spider is a Treachery card while in the encounter deck. When defeated, shuffle this card into the encounter deck, and then when revealed as an encounter card, you're going to stun and confuse the villain, and repeat this effect at another table in the Spider-Verse. So you'll have to pick another table, not your table, and also stun and confuse their villain, and then shuffle this card back into your Web Warrior deck. So you're always going to get a choice between 2 of these spiders, unless you've gotten all 7 on the field somehow. But hopefully these spiders that are popping out of the multiverse help us out. Keep in mind, we're going to have a limited number of tokens, and we'll keep reminding people of how many tokens we have left, so that if we come close to running out, we know how to pump the brakes on maybe spending for World Wide Web, and focus on getting the damage onto Carnage. So that's the Epic Multiverse in a nutshell. You're going to learn more about Symbiotic Standard from the Winning Hand podcast, and more about gaining momentum, and all of the cards that come associated with that, from the Critical Encounters team in a couple of weeks. So I hope you're jazzed for that. I'm excited to see how it plays when we scale it up to a much bigger event. We've worked out a lot of the issues with timing and things from some of our previous events, that hopefully this one is a super fun one as well. Next, I wanted to let you know how the campaign is going to work. We got really good feedback about the campaign last year. People really liked being able to pick their favorite scenarios. And we're kind of running out of card space in our card pack. So we made a 3-card campaign. The way the campaign works this year is you pick 4 of your favorite scenarios, or up to 4. At the start of each scenario, you'll shuffle these symbiote suits together, and these symbiote suits are the 3 children of Carnage, so Toxin and the other 2 offspring. You'll reveal a random symbiote suit on its A side. That has a setup ability and attaches to the villain and gives the villain some kind of buff. But if the heroes win the scenario, we're going to flip that card over and you have gained it as a reward. So in this example, Toxin, when the villain initiates an attack against you, you're going to take 2 indirect damage. So they're really pouring those toxins into your heroes and team. To make it worse, it's going to exhaust all the allies damaged by that indirect. So you're really going to be encouraged to put it onto your hero. But if you manage to defeat Rhino, who's infested with a toxin symbiote suit, you'll gain that toxin symbiote suit for the good guys. So now, for all future missions in that campaign, this is a setup card. You kind of put it in play amongst the players. And the bottom hero action here says spend a physical resource to attach this card to your identity. Any player can use this ability. So you can grab it from the neutral area in the center, or you can grab it from another player, hopefully with their permission. This card has the ability Hero Interrupt. When attached, hero would attack, exhaust this card, and increase the amount of damage from that attack by 2. So you're going to be able to bounce the symbiote suit to the right player each round to hopefully be able to use this suit to help you on future missions in the campaign. So there's 3 offspring of Carnage. So the scenario, or the campaign, is designed to be 4 scenarios long, where you would play someone with Toxin, someone with offspring number 2, someone with offspring number 3, and then you'd pick your hardest scenario number 4 to go into with all these buffs, because you'll have 3 symbiote suits that are bouncing around the table, hopefully to the right people at the right times. Super fun. It's been great in testing. Really love it. All right, so packing list. Normally this is in an article, but it was a video this year just for sake of time for now. I will get the article out eventually, but I wanted to get information to people right away. So obviously, make sure you bring your hero decks. Don't want to show up without a hero deck. And don't forget, from that shield spoiler video that we had, the not real shield, the kind of hero shield, there is going to be a fun modular set that gives your heroes aerial. So if you have a favorite character like me, Hawkeye, and you've always wanted to play, I don't know, Ever Vigilant, you can build an Ever Vigilant Hawkeye deck and use this modular set to give Hawkeye aerial so he gets the chance to have fun, just like everyone else. So the rest of this is what you need to play all of the con content that we'll be giving out. So, and all the events we're going to have, right? So you obviously need the Thunderbolts scenario for that Thunderbolts event. Here we have listed Sandman, Risky Business, Mysterio, and a Sinister Six. Those are the 4 scenarios we have challenge cards for this year. So if you want to play those challenge cards at the con, you'll want to make sure to bring those scenarios. The campaign can be any 2 to 4 scenarios that you want to play. You can play just through one of the suits or through all 3. but bring your favorite scenarios for that. For modular sets, you're going to want one Thunderbolts mod to set up that Thunderbolt event. Symbiotic Strength is the recommended mod for Carnage, so we recommend you bring it, although because there's extra activations in there, you could also bring something like Bomb Scare. I understand that we're not the most balanced always in our design, so that could help you out. The other ones, again, here with the asterisks, these are some of the recommended mods for some of the challenge cards. So Weapon Master, Wrecking Crew, Guerrilla Tactics, and Power Drain. So those are the things you're going to want to bring specifically to play the con-related content. But I always encourage people to bring their favorite 1 to 2 scenarios, bring your favorite 3 hero decks, and just have a blast. So that's what I recommend packing, but you'll also, if you specifically want to have all the right things for the con, these are the mods and villain scenarios that you'll want to bring along with you. And that's all we have for our hype video for today. I'm super excited to see you all here in just under a month. All of the cards that we've shown in this spoiler video, in the future spoiler videos, and that will be given away at the con will be available for print and play on the Con of Heroes website, even with a few of the typos fixed. So the cards actually, they're in my office, but they physically just came in my game room office. This is my recording office. It's very confusing. My kids use the computer for homework now. It's a whole thing. But anyway, so the cards just came in, so they're here. We're excited for you to have them, but they'll also be available for people that can't make the con, that traveling isn't feasible for them, but still want to enjoy this cool thing that the community has put together. So, if you have any questions, you can at myself or at Hone in any of the Con of Heroes Discord channels. I know there's one on the MCM server, there's one on the community server, and there's a channel on the Hall of Heroes server. We're active in all 3. So if you have questions about anything you've seen, comments, or just want to tell me that you're excited, please throw me an at, let me know, because I cannot wait to play some of these scenarios, modular sets, and see all your amazing decks at the con. So we're going to wrap up our hype video for today. Again, please check out the Winning Hand podcast next week for a little bit more information on some more of these spoilers and for some just con information in general. And then check out Critical Encounters again in 2 weeks to get the trifecta of all the information you would ever need to be ready for Con of Heroes. With that, I'll let you go. Keep thwarting those villains, and we'll see you next time.